Hey guys, am I visible? Okay, that's great. We'll start. Thank you for joining us back in the second session of this bootcamp. This second session is going to be a lot more interactive, and this is primarily focused on answering all the doubts of PM aspirants in general. So that's why I've labeled it the most common worries of PM aspirants and how to overcome them. So I have a specific set of questions with me. I'll cover those, and after that, we'll open the floor for questions, and you can put in your concerns and clarifications as well. So give me a minute. I'll get Aditya on the stage as well.
Yep. Hi, guys.
Yeah, Aditya. Sorry, I didn't realize I had not mapped you for this session, so that's why you got dropped off.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Yeah, I'll start my sharing my deck. Is it visible?
Yep.
Okay. Right. So let's dive in. The same instructions which we had for the previous session hold for this session as well. So keep sending your comments and observations in the chat box, post questions, volunteer to answer questions. And as I said, we might not have all the answers on the spot, but we'll definitely help you find the answers post the session as well. So the most I would, okay, so before we begin, let me start with doing a quick poll. So which of the following best describes you? Just go ahead and choose an option. Are the results visible this time?
No,
No?
not that. The poll is visible, but the results aren't visible.
Okay, I see thumbs up, so probably, so Ankit has mentioned that they are visible. Probably some setting again, the speaker might not be able to see it. That could be the only reason. Okay, so let me give the results. So we have around 60 votes. Yeah. Mostly we have engineers, but not coders. I think that is a general like demographic trend of India as well. So it's in line with that. We have mostly engineers here, 67%, and then around 17% each software engineers and non-engineers. So we do have a good mix. I think we shall be able to address doubts of everyone. So without further ado, let me start the content. Right. So this is the most common question that we don't know coding and we haven't done coding. So does this really impact our chances of getting a product management job? So here I'll highlight what is the relationship between product management and coding. So the short answer to this is that coding is not necessary to get into most PM roles. I will make a disclaimer here that say you are working in a product that's very focused on developers. So that's a developer focused product, then or it's a role which is heavily focused on the technical or the platform aspects. Then for those kind of roles, you might require a software engineering background. But apart from that, as a general observation, I would say for most PM roles, coding is not a prerequisite. What is in fact required is a basic understanding of technology, and being able to understand technology is very different from being able to code. And you might ask, why do we even need to understand technology? So there are a number of reasons for that. The most important reason for being conversant with technology is that it helps you identify what's possible and what's not possible. So as product managers, you have to dream up a lot. You have to think of a lot of ideas. So if you don't know the limits of what's possible and what's not possible, you'll not come up with good ideas, because you'll go be too fancy, or you will have something that's too straightforward. So if you understand technology, you can know like where the limit is. Second is a product manager's job is not just to build features. So a lot of times you have tech debt also in your product. So tech debt is basically some of the corner cases which might have been missed, or some issues with the code which were not resolved earlier because the team wanted to ship features fast. So as you grow, as the product grows, this tech debt kind of tends to accumulate, which bites you later on if you don't fix it. So you have to create space for prioritizing these sort of things. That's why it's important that you understand technology, so you know there are things like tech debt, and you can prioritize it based on the team's needs. Next is you get better at understanding the complexity of the projects. So depending on the number of layers a project will touch, for example, if it just touches the front end, then obviously the change is less. But if it's touching both the front end and the back end, then the complexity increases. So in this way, if you know how many layers is your project going to touch, you will be able to better understand the complexity. And to put it like in a straightforward way, engineers will not be able to BS with you. So what this means is, say you go with a small change and the engineer tells you, hey man, this will take 3 weeks, this is very complicated and all that. If you understand technology, you can catch him right there and do a debate or discussion with him that why exactly would it take 3 weeks? Please explain to me. And if you don't understand technology, you'll just have to take them at face value. So this is another thing. And last is, since you know that some ways of solving a problem are more complicated than others, you'll always look for solutions which require less changes in the tech stack, because you will focus on how we can quickly ship this to the market. So those are some reasons why understanding technology is important. And that's why I would say coding is not a prerequisite for getting a PM job, but understanding technology definitely is, and all the reasons I just mentioned now. Next question is, what does understanding technology mean? So understanding technology has got a lot of aspects associated with it. So first is basic understanding of how things work. For example, if I type a URL in a website, then what exactly happens in the backend? So you can watch a 5-minute YouTube video that explains this. Then another thing could be, how does recommendations work on an e-commerce website? So you should have a basic idea of, okay, how will a recommendation system work? Because suppose tomorrow you're a product manager and you're working on an e-commerce site, but you don't have any understanding of how does a recommendation system work, what is machine learning, how does it help there, how does it increase the conversion rate or the wallet share for a customer, you won't be able to contribute that much. That is why understanding these basic details about how a particular product works, how a particular website works, is very important. And I would say that is part one of understanding technology. Now, the second part is, whichever company you are applying for or whichever project or product you have worked on, you should be able to articulate the tech stack or the architecture of it in a decent manner. So I'll give you my example. I work at Airmeet. Now, Airmeet has video conferencing at its core. If I have to talk about my product skills to anyone, I should be able to articulate like how does basic video conferencing on Agora work, what are the players involved, what are the layers involved, what are the different kind of challenges come. Because if I am someone who's working on this video conferencing product and I don't understand the basic technical details of video conferencing, then probably my contribution will be half as much as I would have made if I understand that. So depending on the project or the product you work upon, you should focus on understanding the basic technical aspects about that. Next is, okay, did my presentation drop off?
Yes.
Is it visible now?
Yep.
Okay. Right. And then next thing is what actually comes in understanding technology. So as I told you, the basic technical things about your product, then there are some commonly used terms and definitions as well. So APIs is one thing, system design is one thing, tech stack is one thing. So all these are very basic things which are essential for building any product or digital product. So you should have a basic understanding of how these things work, how do softwares communicate with each other. So that is what I mean by understanding technology. this definitely does not require you to code, but this will help you a lot when you think about ideas as well as communicate those ideas to others you work with. The last bit here is, how do you understand technology? So understanding technology, the first aspect, this is true for understanding anything, is developing a curiosity. So for example, you notice something different or unique. Say while you're using WhatsApp, status messages disappear after 24 hours. So have you ever wondered how exactly would this have been accomplished? That how can something disappear after 24 hours? Or say you're buying a product online. I talked about recommendations. Then how is it actually thinking? What are the recommendations I should show you? So those are the things you need to be curious about. Any product you use, try to be more curious about it. If you like certain aspect of that, try to dig a little more deep into it, and you'll obviously get all your answers online if you just do a basic Google search. Second is, you ask a lot of questions. So you must be having, if you're working, you must be having engineers, or in your college as well, you must be having software engineers. So talk to them, see how they build a product, what are the technical foundations. The more questions you ask with others, the better your understanding will get. And last is, so we covered some aspect of this in the previous session, which is try to build something on your own. So we talked about using no code tools. When you actually build something, you understand the complexities associated with it. So these are probably the things I would tell you to focus on if you want to learn more about the technical aspects, and that is where your focus should be on rather than the coding aspect. So Aditya, do you want to add anything here in terms of
I talk about some good resources, especially for a PM to prepare for tech. So I think you've covered most of it, Vikram. So a good another example of tech, understanding basic tech is, if you use a Uber or Ola today, right? You will obviously need a map feature. But do you think Uber and Ola built a map? No, right? They've used what they do is they call the Google's map. So that basic call is through an API. So again, I do not know how to make an API, but I at least know what an API does, and from a very high level view on how API helps in connecting to systems, and that is what a PM needs to know, right? And it is so one thing is, I feel a lot of people get overwhelmed with tech and say that I do not like tech, that's why I want to get into product management, and that's not the case. You have to know, it's okay not to know coding, it's not even needed. And sometimes it may be for some people, when coding gets in the way, you think too much in terms of system design and logic, that you might miss up the entire customer interaction point of view as well.
Right.
So don't worry about coding. But again, it's really, technology can be really fun even without understanding coding. You can understand like how simple thing like Netflix, right? Which is the beauty of the way they use the recommendation engine. If you watch Big Bang Theory and How I Met Your Mother, they will show you different comedy scenes, right? After they start showing, because they know that you like comedy. And that thing, right? So one technique to learn tech is, it's called a Feynman's technique. You guys can Google it. This is a very good technique to learn anything. In fact, whatever topic you pick up, try to explain it like you're explaining it to a 5-year-old kid. And Richard Feynman, right? He's one of the most famous physicists. He has this thing that he can explain any topic. It's called Richard Feynman technique. So one Google away, I'll send you the link also later. So this is so basically pick any topic you want, either APIs, so the fastest way to understand this is in Google, type A to Z technology topics for a product manager. There will be 1 or 2 resources which shows from A. What is in A? You'll see APIs. You might see things like Adreno or anything. In B, you will see different things like you might see databases for D. So basically, go through it. Just spend 5 seconds on how you would break this down and explain to a 5-year-old kid. You don't have to go deep into the technology part of it, but learn how to explain to analogies, right? And this is a great way of.
You took some really fantastic examples. That API, Google API, Maps API example is a great one. If people don't know about that, they'll think they have to build the entire API map infrastructure as well. The Netflix example is also great, how it shows different thumbnails for the same TV serial to different people. So I think, if you try getting curious like this, you definitely will learn a lot more. So I'll quickly move on to the next topic now. This is the second biggest concern that I've seen people have, that they are from a non-engineering or a non-technical background. Then in that case, what exactly should they do? So how do we solve this problem of being non-technical? First, I think it becomes important to understand, why does an engineering background matter? So are the companies really like, is there any reason why companies prefer engineers, or they are just having an inherent bias? I would say there are certain qualities which engineers are supposed to have, due to which there is a preference given to technical people. One is they are supposed to be good with numbers. They can think scale. They would be able to work well with other engineers. And last is they'll be able to understand constraints and possibilities. So all those are reasons why a lot of companies focus on getting people with an engineering background. But having said that, say you have a degree in the arts field, then a company might assume that you might not be very good with numbers, and being good with numbers and understanding them as an integral part of a PM job. So you need some way to signal these qualities without an engineering degree. That is how you solve the problem of being non-technical. The next important part here is that you can't deny the fact that in some PM roles, being technical is required. So don't focus on those kind of roles. That would be my advice. Find the right role. So in any company, you'll have growth PMs, you'll have business PMs, you'll have technical PMs. Technical PMs are supposed to have a very good understanding of the platform, the edge cases, where does it break. So maybe those kind of roles are not the right ones for you if you don't have an engineering background. Next is you should try to leverage your basic degree to apply in an appropriate sector. For example, if you have a BCom degree, then can you use that finance knowledge to your advantage and maybe try working in a fintech company? Second could be you have a B pharma background. Can you try using your pharma knowledge and get into a health tech company? So those are the kind of questions that you need to ask yourself, that how can you leverage what you have rather than run after what you don't have. Next important point is it's not easy to get into a product management role right away if you might not have an engineering background. So here, an important part of a strategy could be to take up bridge roles. Now, what do we mean by bridge roles? So bridge roles are non-product related roles which you can think of as a stepping stone to eventually getting into product management. For example, you could enter into product or business analyst role. And why is getting into these roles more easier? Because here these roles are more skill based. For example, if you are joining as a product analyst, then you need to be good with SQLs, and your interview will mostly focus on those aspects, your problem solving, and can you find the answers to basic questions using SQL or Python. So it's easier to crack those kind of interviews, and once you get a role as a product analyst, you can grow in that role, learn, and eventually make a transition to the product management role. Right. So before we proceed, Aditya, maybe you want to talk about your experience of what are the kind of questions that you were asked while being interviewed in terms of technical questions.
Cool. So on this, right, again, they never tested. So for both the companies I applied for, both Cred and Cardup, they did not care much about my coding skills. But what one thing they checked out was they asked me, like, if I was a product manager, how would I interact with engineers? How would I make sure my product gets built? So this is a behavioral question morely, but it shows that how you can develop empathy for engineers. For example, one thing for engineers is they might not prefer too much of video calls. They want their coding time. They want this coding time. Maybe async conversations or Slack, they prefer more in video calls. Number two is making sure the requirements are completely clear from a product side. A lot of times there's this huge requirement mismatch between a product and engineer, right? And like I said, a product manager has to own the what and the why. You should not be doing too much about the how. You should give the engineer the ownership of the how and trust with him that he will build the best way he can possibly do. So making sure that, and you also inspire, like when you tell the engineer, hey, this line of code which you write will improve the user journey or will improve the customer experience or it will improve the retention by 10%. You're telling that person the importance of his job, right? And that's very important as a PM. You inspire the other people to do their job really well, designers or PM. So that is very important. You should own the problem definition and not the problem solution. That solution is always done by the best in the team, right? So this is the way I answer the question as well, and that's how you should think about it. Even the number two part is they again degree. See, one thing is you can leverage a degree as in if you're from BCom, telling that you have understood the basics of finance. You have the curiosity and the understanding of finance, the domain knowledge of finance. If you can pitch that to them, right? And a lot of times, domain knowledge becomes very important for a PM. For example, if you have done some, if you have gone to Chaitanya or Narayana, with like most people that have gone, you can somehow find a way to pitch that, saying that you've understood how education works, and that you know the different fallouts. Like a lot of things, like a lot of people in Chaitanya Narayana might face a lot of things like depression if they fuck up, not fuck, sorry for a wrong term, but if they screw up a exam or anything, right? So how do you solve for that? You have been in edtech, you have understood that, right? So can you be as a PM solve for it? Like suppose someone screws up an exam, how do you gamify it? Tell them that this is the funny first time screw up. It won't affect you much in your life. How do you improve on it, right? So building from your basic life experiences, using that as a way to pitch, right, in an interview, that is very important.
Right. Thanks, Aditya. And I have this fun meme with me. So the next time someone tells you that you don't have technical skills, you better tell them what this guy is telling, that what all other skills you actually have. So it's not just about having technical skills as a PM. You bring a lot more to the table. The next question that we usually hear from people is that you don't have prior PM experience, and how do you deal with that? Because so this photo here aptly summarizes what exactly is the problem. So you go to get a job, they'll say we need experience, and that's why you're applying for a job. So this becomes a self-fulfilling loop, that you don't get a job because you don't have experience, and you don't have experience because you're not getting a job. So how do we solve for this? First thing is internships. Companies give internships primarily for that reason. One is obviously they are building their brand also by getting in interns, but it's a lot easier to take risk on someone if you don't have a full-time commitment with them, so there is less to lose. That's why this entire concept of internships is there. Second is there are bridge roles. So as I mentioned earlier, your profile might be such that you can't directly get into a PM role. So in that case, don't focus on getting into the PM role directly. Focus on the role which you can easily get based on your current skill set. And always think that you are playing this long game. So your career is going to last for say 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. So always have that picture in mind. If you are working in a different role for say 1 or 2 years, then in the long run, it doesn't really matter. So don't hurry up into a bad role or in a role which you don't like just because you quickly want to become a PM. Next is, so this is another good strategy. I've observed a lot of friends doing this, that you internally transfer from the current role to a PM position by shadowing product managers. Why this works is because a lot of times product management positions do open up in companies, and who is the first candidate they will reach out to? Now suppose you're someone who's been active in the company, who's always giving suggestions, who has a good rapport with the product managers. They'll always ask you, when the role opens, would you be willing to take it? Or you might have to keep on asking this as well. But definitely there is a very good chance that if you show people that you are good with ideas, you can hustle, then there's a very good chance that you can internally transfer. So don't discount this option and keep it high up in your priority list. Last is making yourself visible. So the fact that you don't have PM skills or you don't have any experience means that you should focus on doing something that actually shows other people that yes, you bring something tangible to the table. And when I say making yourself visible, what does that mean? That means building something. It could be a pitch deck, a product critique, website, app, and then put it out for the world to see and give their comments on. So when you do that, you automatically start thinking how a PM would work. So you have moved, you are no longer sitting on that zero position. You have moved slightly further ahead. And that is the way you should think of proceeding. Right. So Aditya, maybe you would want to talk about how you, without prior PM experience, were able to crack the CRED interview. How did your interviewers take your lack of experience?
Yeah. So for CRED especially, I think I had my done 2 internships before that itself. So having that internships obviously gave me a good leverage to at least go to the interview round. But I can talk about more about how I got my first product management internship. So that was in a company called Local, and it was not PM. It was actually the bridge role called product analyst, because it is comparatively easier if you have, like, so I had basic SQL skills, basic Excel and data analytics skills. So a product analyst is someone who tries to solve for problems to data, most likely data. Like, you keep, what you do is you help the PM with your data insights so that he can build a great product. So that was the first role I started with, and I pitched them saying that, hey, so I told them I'm a college student. I didn't have prior experience, but I pitched them more on my learning ability. That I said that I will pick it up. I will make sure that I won't be a liability for you, but more of an asset. That's very important, especially with interns, right? Most people, most time, hiring managers might think, oh no, yeah, I might be spending my time my time. I will be losing a lot of effort. So I tell them that don't worry about it. I can pick it up. You just need to give me the problem statement. No matter what, I'll do the learning. I will do everything. So if you can convey very well in a cold mail, right, you will get your chance. And product internship, again, for both Cred and Cardup, I relied on my product deck. So for Cardup, which was a company in Singapore, I got the only way to stand out was to show I displayed my skills, right? So I just cold mailed the product manager with a product deck saying how I would improve Cardup as a company. So it had everything I wanted: my research, my user journey, my understanding of user problems with Cardup. And that was actually something which amazed him, because that's the best way to stand out. Given that this is a company in Singapore and there are more than 1,000 people applying from Singapore, how will a person from India stand out, right? So the only way to do that was figuring out what thing which the rest 999 people won't do, and that was actually going and putting an effort and showing how I can change the company. And the best part was, once I got the interview on Cardup, I actually, whatever product suggestions I suggested were completely wrong. It was not actually viable, but they were just so impressed that someone put the effort of learning about the company, watching the YouTube videos about a company, of the CEO of the company. So that's, again, I won't suggest to give wrong answers, but at least that effort you put in, right, it's very important, and you can show, hey, you actually have that skills.
Right.
So yeah.
Thanks, Aditya, for that wonderful information. I think you made a very important point here. A lot of companies think of interns as liabilities, and I won't deny it. A lot of people I have talked to, they view interns from the same lens. So if as a prospect, you can convince your recruiters that you won't be a liability, and in fact, you will contribute positively, then I think your job is solved. And the way you talk about sending pitch decks in advance, I think that's a very good way of convincing your interview as well about your skills. Right. Let us just see if there are any questions. Okay, we have some questions related to how the kind of work you were given during internships. I think this will again be tackling in the next session. Okay, okay. Some unrelated questions, we'll take them towards the end.
There is one question: how much time did it take for you to know about the company and then prepare the deck? It actually, it's a
So that's
1 day.
Anushmita.
Yeah, Anushmita, right? It's actually a 1 day effort. So knowing about a company is very simple, right? The best in any company, right? At least for a mid-famous to famous company, the best way to go is just go to the YouTube video and just type the CEO name of the CEO of the company. And sometimes what happens is the CEO would have either done basically a presentation on the company, or maybe some competition and the CEO has pitched the company, right? The reason I talk about this is the CEO is the best person to articulate about the company's vision. So if you know how he articulates it, you can try to, the way you talk about the company, you should be talking about it from the CEO's lens. For example, at Cred, if you just type Cred Kunal Shah, you will see a way of how Kunal Shah thinks about Cred. Why did he want to build Cred? And so when you're joining Cred, you can talk about this. You can say, hey, I did the research. I was amazed about a CEO's vision on building like this, right? So that is one part of it. The second part of it is basic domain understanding as well. So if you're looking at Cardup, I had to look at 5 other fintech companies. The reason is some fintech company would have cracked something different from Cardup, and can Cardup use the same feature, right? For example, buy now pay later was done by LazyPay. If I knew about it, I can say, hey, I can talk about it to Cardup and say, hey, I see this company called LazyPay, which does this buy now, pay later feature. I think given you already have this leverage, can you build that? So they know that now you've done enough research to understand the market itself, right? You've done 4 or 5 companies, you know the basic competitors. And to be honest, the number one research internship project, which we'll be covering later, is actually competitor research itself, because it's the best way to get interns, get into the product management field. So showing that you're interested enough to look at other companies and suggest these ideas itself will impress them. They'll be like, again, they might not pick the feature or not, but at least the intent they can see, right? So that is very important. Yeah, and this stuff takes money one day, and it's actually not. I won't say it's much of effort, right? Especially if you're interested in the domain. If you're interested in edtech, getting to know about different edtech companies shouldn't be like a hassle for you. You should like doing it, right? And that is very important from a PM point of view, right? You should be like when I look even at Cred right now, whenever a fintech company comes, I download the app. I will make sure I go through it, and if I find something interesting, I will make sure I raise it to my team, saying, hey, this is interesting. Can we copy it? I'll be honest, right? And can we copy it or can we improve on it? Obviously, so I do that as a PM continuously. Any fintech product, anything, I will download the app and go through it. And that is very important for the same, right? You should be very curious to different apps and websites which are around you. So because every app, including Airmate, which you're using, your Google Slides, everything, there was a PM who has built it, right? So understanding his intent behind the product is very important.
Right. Yep. So in fact, I think that's a very good point you mentioned. Even when I use different video conferencing products, I am always looking out for ideas or what is it that they did differently or is better, because at its core, all of us are doing the same thing, video conferencing. So it's always good to get ideas from other products as well. And I think there's a famous quote, I don't know, it's probably attributed to Steve Jobs, which is that good artists copy and great artists steal. So I don't know if Steve Jobs said it or not. You can never know for sure. But yeah, definitely that tells you that it's not necessary to be completely original. What matters is whether you are able to take that idea to execution or not. That is the most important part.
True, and actually Steve Jobs did say it, and this was the example was, the mouse, right? Mouse was not built by Apple, but Xerox, the company Xerox, had come up with the mouse. And Steve Jobs was smart enough, even before Xerox understood the vision of mouse, Steve Jobs knew the vision of it and got it to Apple. So it's not about copying, it's about taking inspiration from everything around you. And that's very important. You become more mindful as a person. And when you become more curious, right, life in general becomes easy, not just for a PM role, but anything you do, it becomes
definitely easy. Yeah. So next question is this. If you have ever gone through the JD for a product management role, I am pretty sure you'll be thinking this person needs to be a Superman, that there are 7-8 different things that are written there. He should be able to do user research. He should be able to own the metrics. He should be able to work with engineers, write PRDs, craft the strategy, make roadmaps. So if you read the JD for the first time, it always sounds so overwhelming that are the people actually doing all this stuff, or like what is going on in the packet? So I'll make a disclaimer about JDs here. So always take job descriptions with a pinch of salt. There are very few companies or recruiters who actually take the pain to clearly highlight what are the roles for that specific job description. So a lot of the stuff in the JD you will find is very generic. So that might have been like being continued since the last 1 or 2 years. So don't ever think of the JDs. Focus on what are the things you need to do to crack the interview, and you'll be able to deal with it during the job, whatever challenges come your way. So don't look at JDs and be overwhelmed as to what exactly you need to do. Just start taking steps towards the product management journey, and everything will eventually fall in place. Now, when I say don't focus on the JD, focus on the basics, what does that mean? So first is focus on developing the basic skills which are associated with any product manager. So what are these basic skills? I highlighted it earlier as well. First is the most important one is communication, both verbal and written. Second is you should have a basic understanding of UI, UX principles, that if you're given a design, can you quickly identify whether it's going to work or will it face usability challenges? Third is understanding the user needs and being able to articulate what problems they are facing. So as someone who's starting out into product management, if you have these kind of skills, I think you definitely can easily break into product management. Next is, so there is a jargon filled word over here, which is developing a product sense. Now, what do I mean by product sense? It means using products in a mindful way. And this knowledge will compound over time. So, right. And the third and the fourth aspect is you need to focus on solving written case studies. What is meant by written case studies? It means understanding the user journey, how to make a case study deck. And last is focusing on the different interview rounds in PM interview, because knowing how interviewing works is very important, and it is slightly different from how you perform on your actual role. So interviewing is a skill and you should focus on becoming good in that. So these are the points I would say you should focus on rather than getting overwhelmed by a JD. So next problem is this. A lot of people say that they're not from a tier 1 college, and how does this impact their chances? So before I take this, any questions related to this? Okay, we can probably take it later. Right. So this is a question, that is getting into PM easier for tier 1 college grads or not? So I won't deny this. IIT-IIM degree definitely makes it easier. It acts as a door opener and it provides you a network which you can leverage. Next is, this is a logical question, that why actually are companies preferring graduates from tier 1 colleges? So try to think of it from the company's point of view. So one thing is, every company is taking a bet on you when they are hiring you. So any company, if it is hiring a person from a known brand name, there is a certain level of credibility associated with it, and in a way the company is hedging its risk. So that is the reason why companies hire graduates from IIT IIM, and that is the reason you should think about on those lines as well. Next is, so it's logical that if you're not from a tier 1 or tier 2 college, you will not look at it in a good light, and you will think that why actually are companies not giving everyone a fair chance. But here I would say, as candidates, instead of cribbing, find a way to short circuit this. So you should do something that helps you out, stand out from other candidates. And here it would mean focusing on building a profile, which we talked about earlier. And any drawback which you might have had by not having an IIT IIM degree can be overcome through this. Next is, what are the strategies? So what are the strategies for this? We already discussed all these strategies in the previous session. And the next set of strategies would be to deploy strategies on LinkedIn to get a shot at the interview, which we'll discuss in the next session. Right. So I think we can maybe stop, because we have some time and I just have one more section left. So maybe we can break here for questions.
The first one is, if getting a PM role for a fresher is hard, is it same for APM role? So again, for freshers, APM role is almost similar to PM. Only difference is, as an APM, you work closely with the product manager, you get mentored by him. He will tell you the different high-level strategy and you own the execution of it. And it is actually the best way to get started. Getting a direct product management role from college is really hard. So think about APM as just like an MBA, but where you're getting paid for doing product management. So for 2 years. So APM is the best. So the two roles, one is product analyst and the other one is APM. These are the best bridge roles. Getting a PM role directly from college is almost, I would say, impossible, because APM is the role which most college, which most APM programs, which more companies like. A lot of companies like Razorpay, PhonePe, even PayU has started their APM program, where they take college graduates and they train them. Even Flipkart is known for having an APM program. So that is very. So I think APM role is the one you have to target if you're a college student. If you have 1 or 2 years directly into the job, then you can try targeting a PM role itself. But yeah, that's the basics of that. The second question is, do we have tech RPM or APM roles in India? Tech APM roles in India, yes, we have. There are, so it depends upon the company again, right? a lot of B2B companies so there are different flavors of product management itself. One is a growth PM role. So this guy is very good at analytics, very good at understanding psychology and improving. There's a platform PM role. This guy is good at building capabilities, understanding basics of tech and how to hack tech. There's a business PM role. This person is good with the domain. He understands the domain. Like for example, in fintech, he understands how payments work, how different fintech companies work, right? And that he can leverage his domain. So, and finally, there's a data PM, very good with data science, very good with data analytics, can build good data products like recommendation engine or a chatbot or all of this, right? AI, basic stuff. So it is up to you to build that depth. Vikram, if you're speaking on mute.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add on to your point. You talked about data PM roles. So Saket also had a similar question that how does having a data science experience help? So definitely, if those kind of roles are there, it would definitely help in that. And as we said, analyst or a data science role acts as a bridge role, and you can definitely leverage it to get entry into a PM role as well.
So to answer that question, Saket, actually data science and product analyst roles, both analyst and data science roles are actually one of the closest bridge roles to PM, because whatever skills you learn in data science, especially a PM is supposed to be very quantitative. When you say I'm releasing this feature will improve this metric by 20%. You should be telling this to your engineer and your business team. And the best people who can do that are data scientists, right? They understand data itself. So it's a great role to, if you can talk about how you used your data science experience to improve a product, or what analysis you did, and you spoke to a PM about it, and the PM built the product on it, right? You should be able to leverage it, and it will be it's a very good bridge role for compared to most other roles. I think data science and data analyst are the best bridge roles for PM.
Right. In fact, I would go on to say that if you're a great data scientist, then why do you want to switch into product management? It's like if you're a great engineer or a great data scientist, then probably you should try to stick with those fields, because at the end of the day, those might witness even greater growth in the future, if that is the reason why you are focusing on shifting to those kind of roles.
True.
So you shouldn't just blindly look into getting into product management. If you are very good in your chosen domain, then by all means focus on that domain. So you shouldn't think that product management is the best possible role there. It's just one of the many good roles that are out there.
Yep. So on that, right,
go on. Go on.
I'll answer this question first, and then. So for a fresh engineering graduate, what is the best option? PM intern to full-time product role, product analyst to PM role. Should I focus on getting a PM internship or being a product analyst? So, okay, this is a pretty interesting question. So, Rishi, if in your first 4 years, if you can get a PM internship, I think one thing very important is if you're a college student, one internship almost improves the chances by 30 to 40% to getting a PM role. And two PM internships will get you at least 80% on getting an APM role in any company. If you have done 2 PM internships in decent startups, and I'm talking about is at least early stage startups, which are product based startups, where you actually can substantiate your effort here, right? It becomes very easy to get selected during resumes and everything. So obviously in your college, this was the entire point of the session itself. Like especially is try your best to get your PM and get 1 or 2 PM internships. If you if you're not able to get a PM internship, and you're struggling to get an APM role, then product analyst is a great role. Again, the advantage of product analyst is that, again, it focuses on the data side of things, which is a very important thing for a PM. So if you started as a product analyst and then become a PM, right, your foundation of at least one side of PM, that is data, is completely done. So even in the future, when you grow, when you become 10 years down the line, whatever you learned as a product analyst will still help you, because you're a generalist plus a specialist with data. That is great, right? Most PMs are just generalists. So having one leg where you have a T, think about it, learning to be like a T, right? There's breadth and there is depth. So your depth will be in data, and you'll always have that skill, you'll have that confidence there, so that will be great for you.
Got it. So even I'll tell about my personal example also. So even after 3 years of work experience, while I was going for an MBA, I had a lot of time at my disposal. I had around 3 months before I went in for my MBA. And during that time, I myself applied to a lot of startups and did a PM internship at a mid-sized company. So that was the goal, because when I'll be sitting in interviews during my MBA time, this PM internship became very useful for me, because unlike some of my peers, I already had something which I'd done related to product management. Maybe I had not built an actual product, but the basics of doing market research, customer interviewing, these were things that I already knew. So it definitely adds that extra points or extra skills to your CV. So even if you think it might be possible for you to get a full-time role, always try and get a PM internship if it's difficult to get a full-time role, because that really improves your chances of getting a PM role outside the company as well, or in the best case scenario, converting it in the same company as well.
Yeah.
Got it. So let me just complete the last section, and then whatever time is left, we can use it for questions. Right. So this is another common question which is asked by people, whether you need an MBA degree to become successful as a product manager or not. So I myself have an MBA, so I might be a little biased here. So I'll give my opinion. First is, for most startups, getting an entry-level role as an APM does not require an MBA. So that is one thing. I think in most startups, you can easily get a PM internship or an APM internship. It does not require an MBA. Now, some startups do have programs where they specifically go and hire from MBA colleges only, programs or their APM roles. There, obviously, it's not possible. But if the startup does not have any specific program like that, it becomes a lot more easier. Next is large companies such as Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google. They generally have a more structured process, and they will prefer MBA degrees. So getting into these companies, you don't require MBA. You do require an MBA degree. So my advice would be, focus on getting into startups if you don't have an MBA. And I personally feel that MBA is quite beneficial in the long run, as it teaches you core aspects of strategy, finance, marketing. And I feel after reaching a certain point in your product management career, you might witness stagnation. So personally, I feel that if you want to get into leadership roles in, say, the next 5 years, 7 years, then definitely an MBA is an option you should consider, because it prepares you well for leadership roles and even the networks that you'll see. So in most of the companies that you see, people who are handling VP level or senior positions, they generally have an MBA degree with them. So they'll obviously prefer people with an MBA background, because when you have done an MBA, you tend to look at in a better light as compared to someone who has not done an MBA. And last point is, so as an employer or as a recruiter, I would say that the only alternative to an MBA, so for example, if I have to see two candidates and one does not have an MBA, one has an MBA, then how would I look at the non-MBA candidate? So I feel if you have been a co-founder or in the part of a core team of a startup, that definitely makes you as good as an MBA graduate. But apart from these, I think it becomes very difficult to compete for senior level positions at an MBA without an MBA. So this is my personal opinion. Obviously, others will have differing opinions. So take it with a pinch of salt, but this is what I feel. Right. So that is it. That is the presentation from my side. Thanks to Aditya for helping prepare this content. We still have 8 minutes. So we'll devote this to taking questions from you. Right. So let me start. For few FANG companies have APM programs which don't require an MBA.
I actually, to be honest on this, FANG companies do look at this thing, right? They look at MBA degree, and in India they don't have a program. Like I know that Google has APM program, Facebook has RPM program. I've actually applied for all of them. So speaking from experience, it's very hard to get it from being from India. To be honest, it's more focused for the US market. Hopefully things will change. I've seen companies now moving towards trying to get college students, because they can train them the way they want to train them, right? Their process and product this thing. So there are companies which are opening a lot of APM programs. So common is Flipkart, Ola, NoBroker, Razorpay. Cred doesn't have an APM program, but has a very good, strong internship program where, so all of it is to build and nurture product managers. And correct. See, in fact, I think what Shashi said there, right? The Kunal, CEO of Cred itself.
I would like to add a point over here. So it's something around the lines of an outlier bias. So you can't look at specific examples and say that is the norm. So for example, Mark Zuckerberg is a dropout from Harvard. That does not mean that you have to be a dropout from Harvard to be successful. So look at it this way. If there are 100 CEOs and 80 of them have an MBA and 20 don't, it means that MBA improves your chances of getting in. So that is how you should always look at these things. Have a large data set based on which you can compare, because if you look at specific examples, you might get biased. So that is my only recommendation.
That's an amazing point, and this is the same for even the college, right? The thing is, probability will matter, right? You see, in life, that is more important. What I mean by even being in tier 1 colleges improves your probability, but does not mean possibilities, right? You will be able to get a this thing. Maybe the odds are slightly stacked against you, but if you figure out how to stand out in while you're doing your college through your work or through your projects, again, it will improve your chances, right? So don't like that's very great example. Don't just focus on someone's this thing, like someone's journey. Make sure that you at least understand, like do a good background and have a good sample set before you make a decision, right? Yes, MBA will help you, but doesn't mean that you cannot. It's absolutely like an impossibility to get a PM role without without an MBA. So do one thing is study at least 10 people or 20 people without an MBA who have got a PM role. But so understand their thing. What did these 20 people do differently, right? You will figure out a playbook or their process which they have used, and that's how you should do. And I encourage a lot of LinkedIn stalking. Like, do not stalk on Instagram or Facebook or Tinder or anything else, but on LinkedIn, it is good to stalk. I mean, not message people, but go to their profile, especially if you're a college student, right? Understand their journey. Like someone who's right now a director of product management, where did they get started? How did they go? How many companies did they work in? What age did they become a director of product? So you will get a very basic idea. And I did this a lot in my second year and my first year, and it helped me. Right, I discovered PM role because of LinkedIn itself. So being good at stalking different people, understanding their career journey, and I'm talking about a large sample set, not just 1 or 2 people, right? And you will get a good idea of what companies require. So even this, right, if you stalk different people in different companies, like if I looked at 10 people in Amazon, I realized all 10 people have an MBA, and especially an MBA from Tier 1 college. So now I know that even now, if I apply to an Amazon, I'm at a disadvantage. But I know at companies like Credit or companies like Razorpay, they're not that focused on the college or the degree. They have programs just specifically for college people. So this research you'll have to do. Yeah.
Got it. So we have a good question from Ankit. Ankit works as a web development intern, and he says that how can he leverage that for cracking PM roles? I think you have got a fantastic chance of leveraging this experience, because the fact that you are building some product from scratch, this becomes a very good entry point where you can showcase to your recruiter, both on your CV and by having a publicly accessible link of that project, that yes, you know how to build projects, you have collaborated with other engineers, you have collaborated with your product or project manager. So I think this is a great chance. And in our next session, where we'll be talking about how do you add these kind of points onto your resume, we can elaborate more on how do you enter your internship experience so that it becomes more sellable. But definitely, I think this experience can easily be leveraged for cracking PM roles.
Yeah, dude. So now you know, like, given that you have web development internship experience, you know how to build a website. We just need to decide what website to build, which will help you stand out. Like take a small problem which you want to solve and build it your own way, right? You already know how to solve it. So just choose the right problem to solve. It could be some gap in some idea. You know, maybe a simple idea is like, you know, managing your, like, one website which I saw was just basically managing your food expiration date. Like a lot of people like me also, we have a lot of food in our refrigerator which might get expired someday, and we forget about it, right? Having a basic refrigerator management system on a website where you can just see this, like we can just log food on it, or log your daily water intake or your food intake or your calorie intake, right? Basic stuff like that, basic website on it. You just use your own spin into it, right? And just build it. And you can obviously use that and say how you came out with the problem.
Right. So there's a good point from Raghuvamshi. Could you just please come again where we can learn the necessary principles for getting a PM internship in a good, decent startup? So I'll start. First is we mentioned about the communities. So these communities post like product folks and PM school. They post a lot of information on what are the kind of skill sets required. They do a lot of mentorship sessions where some speaker comes in and he gives you good guidance. Then PM Product Folks has also launched its course. PM School also has its courses. So one is you search online for communities, you'll find a lot of courses that they're doing. Second is Aditya talked about this Appraise platform, so which gives you a guaranteed shot at a PM internship. So that is another thing. In terms of resources, I think Try Exponent is being run by a former Google PM, Stephen Cognetta. So that is another great source to learn about the skill of interviewing. And last is we'll talk about some of these aspects, the principles, as to say, how do you build your resume or how do you reach out to people on LinkedIn. I think those are equally important principles which can help you get a PM internship.
Also, one more important thing is hustle, dude.
Yeah.
I think especially for PM internships, right? It will be slightly hard process where you might be applying for 100 companies, and while you're doing all the cold mailing and everything, only 10 or 5 people will reply to you. You will feel bad. You will see a lot of rejections, but remember that that's not a definition on your skill, right? Sometimes that can happen because even maybe you did the right thing, but the person was not active on LinkedIn. Or maybe it's not a definition of your skill or your interest as a PM. Don't think like just because you're getting rejected by a company, that doesn't make you a good PM. Remember, PM is as much as a mindset as a skill set as well. If you can your thought process on having empathy to your customers, thinking about a person first before applying, you're already a good PM. Like basic examples of PM are your own parents, right? Great at managing different stuff, stakeholder management, building stuff, handling a lot of multitasking and everything, right? Being able to understand everyone's goals. Like my mom does that really well, and I think many parents do that really well. So remembering that it's not your, if you get rejected by 2 or 3 companies, does means there is something which you can improve on, but doesn't mean that your skill as a PM or your mindset as a PM is bad, right? So just remember that. So you have to have thick skin. I think I got rejected by a lot of companies, and I used to feel bad, but it's worth it because you will improve on yourself. So just make sure that you try as much as possible and make sure you have a lot of opportunities. At least making sure that you hustle a lot, right? That's very important because you're probably just one cold mail or one way reach out from your dream job. So just keep remembering that, and that one cold mail, if you crack it, you will do it well.
Right. Thanks a lot, Aditya. I think that part where you talked about parents being great stakeholders, we should take a video bite of that and share it with your parents as well. They'll be really happy. As Aditya said, charity begins at home. So your empathy also should begin at home. A lot of people you'll reach out on LinkedIn might not respond. So don't get angry or think that they are being too arrogant for not replying to you. Generally, when you are inundated with messages, sometimes you lose track of all the messages you're getting. So one is don't be angry with them, and second is keep at it. So there's a fund of conversion. So if 10 people are viewing your message, then probably 2 or 3 people will reply to that. So always keep that rate in mind, and based on that approach, go forward and apply on LinkedIn as well. We'll cover more details on how to use LinkedIn in our session next week. Vishruth has posted some names of fantastic PMs. Even I follow them. So Diego Granados, Felix Watson, both of them, and Lewis Lynn as well. So all 3 are quite active on LinkedIn and they post great content. But one recommendation I would want to give is, again, I mentioned this in the previous session as well. Don't become a content consumer, because what is happening is all of us are reading and getting motivated rather than actually doing that stuff. So you should focus on those particular aspects as well, that whatever you're consuming, try to implement it. Only that will help you become a better PM.
Yep, and that's completely right. I think this is one of the biggest issues with social media today. Like, see, I go through 100 of LinkedIn posts. All of them, most of them are very, very informative, very motivational. But if you ask me to recall after reading the 100 posts, I won't even be able to recall one. Maybe I spend 5 seconds at them, get motivated, put a like, put a comment, and I forget about them, right? Instead of that, if you just choose one post and you actually implement it, you either write it down, you teach it to someone, you make sure you understood it completely, and you actually implement it in your daily life. That is better than reading hundreds of posts. Similar thing to books as well. Make sure that whatever knowledge, if you're using a resource, make sure the knowledge sticks, right? Make sure you can recall it. A lot of people don't focus on recall, you just focus on acquisition. You feel great by reading 100 books, but knowing one book end to end and using that book in your daily life is better than reading 100 books and not remembering much or not using much of it, right? Because at the end, it's what you do with what you know that matters, not what you know, right? So that's very important.
Right. I think we can close the session on that thought. Thanks a lot, folks, for joining us and hearing us patiently and being very enthusiastic in both the chat box and the question section as well. We hope we were able to deliver the content here again as well, according to your expectations. Some of the questions I've noticed, I didn't take them up. We'll definitely follow up on these in our mails after the session. For now, you can just hang around the lounge, talk to your fellow participants, and no more. We'll be back tomorrow with another session at 11 a.m. Tomorrow's session will be more hands-on. We'll focus on the art of building a resume and how to build great resume. I have a small exercise for you. You should come prepared with your resume tomorrow. That say you have to apply for a company, then you should have a resume ready for you. So tomorrow when you come for this session, just have your resume ready, and we'll try and doing a resume review among the participants. So once the masterclass ends, we can assign you to tables and you can discuss, try doing resume reviews for each other. So this will really help you get a lot of information and get a lot of insights on your CV as well. So that's it from our side. Thank you for joining us. See you tomorrow. Goodbye. See you tomorrow at 11. Bye.
Thanks, guys.